Continuing on with the watercolor technique chart, there are different types of stop outs. One is rubber cement, one's masking tape, and one's a liquid plastic called frisket. Here I've put down a stroke of rubber cement and I've let it dry for 10 minutes. And then I'm going to go over top of that with my watercolor. And where the rubber cement is, that will resist the watercolor. And I'll let that dry for 10 minutes and then I'll rub it up with my fingers, and wherever the rubber cement is will stay white. So that technique can be used for creating clouds in a sky. Next, I'm going to put down some masking tape. This is also a stop out. It will keep the watercolor from going where the masking tape is. But this will make straight edges. So if you wanted to create maybe edges on a building, you could use this. So I'm just going to go over top of this. Again, let it dry for 10 minutes and then pull it up and it will be white under where the masking tape is. Next, I'm going to do spattering, and with spattering the watercolor tends to go all over the place, so I'm going to put down this cardboard around my circle. And you could use a stencil also. I can put a shape in like this, and I'm going to use a toothbrush and get some watercolor on my toothbrush, and then I'm going to flick it towards myself. And if you put the bristles up, it will make smaller spatters, smaller drops. And if you put the bristles down, it'll make bigger globs. So we can take this off. Like that. You could use spattering to make it look like gravel in a road or something like that. Next is wax resist, and with wax resist you can use paraffin or a crayon or oil pastel. All of these have wax in them, and when you put down the color, that wax will resist the watercolor. If you use contrasting colors like I'm using orange and blue, it'll stand out more. Also, it helps if you put a lot of pressure on your crayon. The next technique is blotting. Blotting is putting down color and then pulling it back out. Again, you don't have a lot of time to do this, so you have to work fairly quickly. But let's say this is my sky and it's too dark for me. I might blot up some of that color, possibly to make a cloud. The next technique is sgraffito. Sgraffito is scratching the surface of the paper. I can scratch it to begin with, or I can put down color and scratch into it. This will make darker lines when I scratch first. I'm going to blot that up a little because it's a little dark. There you can see that the sgraffito lines are darker. And also I could put down color, let it dry, and then come back into this and scratch white areas out of it. Maybe I wanted to make flowers in a meadow. I could scratch white lines back into that. This paper is fairly thick, and so it'll take some distressing, some scratching. Next is marker. I can also put down marker ahead of time and then go into it with color. And that will make the marker a little diffused, softer. Or I can put down color, let it dry, and go into that over top of it with marker also. And that will make sharp lines with the marker over top. Next is a sponge, and we have these natural sponges. If you wet the sponge, it'll make softer marks. If you use it dry, it will make more distinct marks. So pick up some color, dab a little of it off, and get some of that texture just like the dry brush technique. Dry sponge, more texture. Wet sponge, less texture. Next, I can put salt into watercolor. Table salt will make smaller crystals. Kosher salt will make larger crystals. If I use violet, it'll look like a night sky. You don't want to really pile up the salt. Just sprinkle some crystals into it. This will look like frost on a window. It takes a little while for the magic to happen. That's enough. And the final technique is frottage. Frottage is very accidental. You don't really know what it's going to look like. I like to put in 3 or 4 different colors, blend them into each other. You can crumple up saran wrap, or you can use bubble wrap. This takes longer to dry. It takes about 20 minutes to dry. I'm going to use bubble wrap and put the bubble wrap over top of this, and it helps if you put something heavy on top. Students like to use their phones sometimes, or something heavy to keep the bubble wrap in contact with the frottage. And that is it for the watercolor technique chart.